What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and I got another one of my own requested top 10 list videos to share with you guys today. Now this time, this video was requested by one of my viewers, and he wanted to know what are my top 10 favorite martial arts films of all time. Now, fair warning, my list may end up being drastically different than yours, and yes, Bruce Lee is on the list, but he won't be exactly where I'm sure most of you guys would expect him to be. So starting off with number 10, I picked Kung Fu Hustle. Now, Kung Fu Hustle is really one of those martial arts films that you don't really take too seriously, but you kind of admire the style of this type of filming martial arts. How, you know, it kind of breaks the laws of physics and adds all this magic stuff and people obviously on wires and all this crazy stuff. It's just a crazy movie, but I just like how the movie is shot. I thought some of the story elements were a bit wacky, kind of like Looney Tune wise, but you know, it's entertaining enough to the point where you'll never be bored. And I actually thought that the final battle at the end, with the whole him just kind of skydiving down and using the whole like handprint move, I thought that was pretty entertaining. Going on to number 9, I picked The Protector. Now I gotta admit, I think the plot to The Protector is simply just ass, because basically Tony's job is just looking for his elephant, and apparently that's the exact same plot of The Protector 2, which I have yet to see. But the one thing that the movie does escalate in is the martial arts in it, because I gotta tell you, Tony's job is incredibly impressive. I absolutely love how each action scene is shot, and it's always, from what I can tell, most of them are done in like one cuts, so that makes it incredibly impressive, because it means that a lot of preparation was done with each and every single takedown. And I think that out of all the movies that are on my list, I think this movie has the record for like the most bones broken. I mean, if you're gonna remember anything from this film, you're gonna remember like the last fight where he's taking on I don't know how many guys, and like every single takedown he is just breaking bones in ways that is just like kind of painful to watch. I mean, this guy can break bones better than Batman, and if I'm saying that, then it's something you should check out. Going on to number 8, I picked Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, Jean-Claude Van Damme was, you know, pretty popular back in, I remember correctly, probably the late 90s, like early 90s, late 80s, at kind of the peak of his career, and one thing he was known for is martial arts films, or showing off his martial arts skills. And I think Bloodsport was really the one where we got to really see him shine the most, because aside from it having some really cool martial arts scenes, I thought it had a really interesting plot. It was kind of, for me, it kind of felt like a more realistic tone to Mortal Kombat, but without the killing. Unfortunately, I think maybe a couple people were killed because of that one guy. And I just thought the final battle where he kind of didn't quite lose his sight, but he couldn't quite use his eyes as well as he could. I thought that was a pretty impressive fight. So it kind of shows that it's not exactly it's the best example of using all of your senses to fight a battle, even though you lose the most important ones when it comes to a fight, which is your eyes. So that's why that one is on this list. And speaking of Mortal Kombat, number 7 on my list is, in fact, 1995's Mortal Kombat. I don't care what any of you guys say, Mortal Kombat was awesome, and to this day, it still remains my favorite video game-based movie of all time. Because what Mortal Kombat did was it took a game that really didn't have a plot, gave it a plot, and focused on the fighting. And to this day, I still think the fight between Johnny Cage and Scorpion is probably one of the best fights I've ever seen in a film. And I know that the CG has not really aged well, especially on the reptile creature. It looks like something that, you know, you wouldn't even see on like a cheap, like, made sci-fi movie, but I think that it still holds a place in my heart. And I think many Mortal Kombat fans like myself will appreciate that, you know, the first one was pretty good for its time. Until Mortal Kombat Annihilation came along and kind of crushed all our dreams, but heck, that's beside the point. But bottom line, Mortal Kombat 1 was awesome. I still enjoy it to this day. Watch it at least 3 times a year, and hopefully we'll get a new Mortal Kombat movie with a much more grittier take on it soon. Going on to number 6, I picked The Legend of the Drunken Master. Now, I always have kind of a biased opinion when it comes to Jackie Chan. I'll acknowledge that he is a truly spectacular martial arts, but the problem I have with his style is I can never seem to take it as seriously as I'd like. He seems to take martial arts and kind of make it goofy. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's entertaining, but it's goofy. And, you know, you never, like, you just watch any one of his films. But I think the most serious I've ever taken his type of martial arts was probably Legend of the Drunken Master. I mean, the story is what you can expect from a title like that, and I think it's just the closest I've felt Jackie Chan ever really got to actually using his martial arts in a very serious manner. Don't get me wrong, he's still pretty badass even to this day, but you know, it would have been nice to actually see him take a much serious tone with his style of martial arts, or projecting martial arts, and I think this is just the closest we'll ever get from him. Going on to number 5, I picked The Matrix. Now, The Matrix is awesome, and I would even say probably most people might add The Matrix as being probably one of the greatest films of all time because of its technological leaps and its use of slow motion, and heck, some of us remember the really cool martial arts scenes. And for me, for some reason, I think that's really the point where Keanu Reeves really got interested in martial arts, because ever since then, he's been trying to kind of repeat that, and I thought he did a really good... I think he's had a couple of good attempts, but, you know, The Matrix itself is just a truly great plot. It's completely original from what I can remember. And I think that outside of it being a great martial arts film, it's a pretty damn good action film with a truly great plot, with some reasonably good acting, and a great premise, which many would consider was ruined over the 2 sequels afterwards, but I don't think it was as bad as some people would think. But I'm sure many of us will agree that The Matrix is still the best out of the trilogy, and maybe we'll get a reboot of it one day. Going on to number 4 is a film that I'm sure would be on everyone's list that does a video like this, and that is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I think that's all I need to say about it because we all know how awesome that film is. So, moving on to number 3, I picked, please don't shoot me for this, Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. Now, what I'm going to say is going to be very unpopular, but before you press that dislike button, I want you to just hear me out first. I think Bruce Lee is very overrated. Stop right there. Do not press that button. Let me explain. Look, when it comes to martial artists, Bruce Lee is the man. I will not deny it. He is the icon. He is the epitome of badass when it comes to martial artists. But my problem with Bruce Lee is that throughout the films, or the limited number of films that he did over his life, I never really got the sense that he was ever actually trying, or he was in any sort of danger, or he had any kind of challenge. I mean, it just seemed like there was some type of aura around him, that he was such a master of his style that no one could beat him. And it's really hard for me to really be invested in a character like that when I know they're going to win. And he probably never even had to struggle. Every single battle I even saw him in all his films, whether he was taking on one opponent or taking on multiple opponents, he seemed to be in total control of the fight and didn't seem to really have to put much effort into winning. And that is more so in Enter the Dragon. Don't get me wrong, I think it's his best film, but again, I didn't see him struggle. I mean, okay, he gets a couple of paper cuts, one on his back, one right here, and I think one right there, but you know, that final battle seemed to be just kind of more of a, let's play a game in this you know, maze of mirrors. And, you know, I think how the bad guy ended up kind of dying was kind of a bit generic. It was like, wow, he just so happens to fall right where the spear was thrown through the wall. So, again, I still think Bruce Lee is badass. He is the great icon that we all know him for. And Enter the Dragon is an awesome film, but I just don't think as a martial arts film, it is the best. Now going on to number 2, I picked probably a very underrated movie that I don't think a lot of people give credit towards, and that is the movie Unleashed, starring Jet Li and the late Bob Hoskins. Now, what I really liked about Unleashed was that it was not just a great martial arts film that we really got to see Jet Li's skills. It was a really great character development story. I mean, it's called Unleashed here in the US, but it's called Danny the Dog in the UK. And it really was an interesting story about a guy who was really trained since a kid to be just this unstoppable killing machine, but finds a sense of relaxation, a sense of relief in music. And that's really not something you would expect from a person who's pretty much been raised to be a killing machine. And I also thought that his interactions with Morgan Freeman were very well character driven. You felt a lot of heart, and you could see a massive character development of Jet Li's character from the beginning to the end, where he stops being a killing machine who all he knows is fighting to someone who wants to protect the people who have come to become his family. And I think that this is really his best performance, and he really doesn't get the credit he deserves. And that's why Unleashed is my second favorite martial arts film. And that takes me to number 1. Now, number 1 might be a little bit cheap to some people, but I thought this movie was awesome because not only is this my favorite martial arts film I've ever seen, this is probably one of the best action films I've ever seen in a long time. I mean, like over the course of my 23 years of life. And that is The Raid. What makes The Raid work is that it has great action shots. It's got great martial arts, it's got great gun battles, and it has a premise that is so simple anyone could follow it, and the movie never takes a break. Everything about the film screams badass. How the film is shot, how it sounds, how the action is done. Pretty much, they don't really focus too many on a lot of the characters, but the characters that we do spend a lot of time with, you actually do care about them because they are trapped in this really terrible scenario where they have to start up by ghosting these guys one by one, trying to catch this drug lord, and then once they hit a certain floor and shit starts to hit the fence, heck, the action just never stops, and it is up close and brutal and gory, and you feel every punch, every hit, every snap, every shot. You feel it. And I think that in many ways it wasn't quite as intense. No, I take that back. It was even more intense with The Raid 2, but you know, there are a couple problems I have with that film. But I'm saying on The Raid by itself, it was really everything you could ask from your basic action film, but taking the one element that you will remember and pushing it to levels that even your like $100 million summer blockbuster films can't even reach, because they feel like maybe if we throw just enough special effects in it, that'll get people to remember it. But heck, I remember The Raid for a whole bunch of different reasons that even movies that come these days can't even match. And that is why The Raid is my #1 favorite martial arts film. And with that, that is the end of my video. And I really would like to know, what are some of your guys' favorite martial arts films? Maybe you guys know a few that I've missed that might make it to my list if I ever start to see one that I thought was really intense. So tell me, what are some of your guys' favorite martial arts movies? And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to track me with my future movie, video game reviews, and top 10 list videos like this one. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.